Morning, everyone. Hopefully, Gareth, you can still hear us. So just welcome everyone to the meeting and yourself online as well, Gareth. I think apology wise, Hannah, I think probably the only ones we got now would be Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
I think just for clarification, we could just probably do a quick introduction around the table, just help Kelly with the minutes as well. So Gareth, we come to you on screen first.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Gareth Tovey. I'm the Executive Council member for Wales for the Fire Brigades Union, and I sit here as a scheme user representative.
Gareth.
I'm Ian Trailer, the Service Director for Pensions, Procurement and Transactional Services at Rhondda Cynon Council, and I support South Wales Fire in relation to their administration of the scheme.
Thank you, Ian. I am Dean Loader and I'm the chair of the Local Pensions Board Committee.
I'm Gabrielle Greathead. I'm the Legal Services Manager and Interim Monitor. Kelly Williams, Secretariat.
Lee Buncombe, Senior Procurement Officer.
Stuart Milton, Interim Chief Fire Officer, and I'm here, I think, in my capacity as Fire Leaders Association representative.
Julia Thompson, the business part of the pension. Alison Reid, Director of People Services. Anna Clifford, Governance Support.
Okay, thank you everyone for the introductions as well. Declarations of interest, I don't believe that there are any. Chairperson's announcement suggested item 3. There's none from myself. I know we've got quite a few things on the agenda today. Some papers for decision and also some papers there for information for the board. But I think the first thing for us to do, as long as everyone's got copies, is to go through the minutes. And they're on the start of page 3 of your pack. Now, I think you've got a copy there electronically, do you?
Yeah, I've got that. Thank you.
Okay. So we start on page 3, the minutes from the last meeting. If there are any issues, please just call out.
Yeah, just one on that one. I've been left off the attendee list for last time.
Apologies for that, Lee. So we'll make sure that we do the amendments on there for you, okay?
Yeah.
So page 3, and then if we go across to page 4, please. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. So are there any other issues from anyone other than what Lee has already noted? We're happy with the true record. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's take on standing actions. Sheet on page 9 of your bundle. There's three current outstanding actions. Top one there is members handbook. And Alison, this one there was for yourself.
Yeah, so by way of an update to confirm, the members handbook is available on the intranet site for pensions. Now, you may not have been able to find the intranet page, so what I think we might need to do is send the link around to members to make it easier for you to access the handbook. So we'll do that as an action after this meeting.
Any queries for Alison from anyone? Okay, next one down there was about members handbook, and we had a conversation in around where we discussed the handbook the last time, in particular one of the points. And this was there for me to look at for myself and Al. And this was around the membership of the local pension board, where under item D it says that the chair should either be an employee or an employer representative. Obviously, we've had a few discussions between ourselves in terms of what that means for us as a service, because we're aware, obviously, that other parts of the UK, fire rescue services, that occurs where the chair is also an employee or member of a rep body. So I think it's probably just an open discussion for us as a board to consider if we're happy with myself being the chair of the board. It would require an amendment of the members handbook for us in particular. So it was just an open discussion. Was that something that the board feels appropriate, or there are some other alternatives that we want to discuss?
So if anybody wants to speak, so my experience in a previous life is that it alternates. It alternates between it being an employee representative in year one, let's say, and then the employer representative in year two. And it goes backwards and forwards in that regard. But and I mean, you wear two hats, Dean, don't you?
Yeah.
Because you're a member of a union. So therefore you are an employee representative in that regard. And so, for example, when I've chaired a local pension board in the past, it's been in my capacity as Fire Leaders Association rep, and then ultimately it would go over to another member of staff, on the opposite alternative year. And if somebody from the FBU wanted to chair on an alternative year, it would just move around in that regard. That's my experience. It sort of rotates around, and clearly there's a bit of a skill set that comes with it and a training requirement to understand the complexities and the dark art of pensions world, which it is a task if you've not been in that space before of sort of doing all of that training and becoming familiar with that. But that training package is available, and it's something that can be achieved relatively easily. So as I say, in my experience, it's been a rotational chair.
So I think the terms of reference were quite explicit, weren't they, that it could be this, it couldn't be that. So I think I could take the explicit requirements away and just leave it as a sort of open chair.
Yeah, I pretty much support that, Alison. I don't know if there's any other viewpoints. Darren, is there anything from your perspective?
No, just to check really that from a regulatory point of view that we'd be in line with anything set out that initially made our terms of reference set up that way, whether we could just check that. If there's nothing stopping us, from that perspective, then yeah, I think it's a good way forward. But whether we could check that with someone, I'm not sure who that someone would be.
I think that you can achieve what's already probably there. If it talks about an employee representative, then as long as you're a member of a trade union, then you're an employee representative. And if you're an employer representative, as long as you're part of the senior management team, you're a representative of employers. So you're meeting the requirements already by doing what I've suggested. Just you wear multiple hats, don't you, in a particular environment? It's a different environment than others, because you're a member of the pension scheme and a member of a trade union and also a member of the senior team. So you are fulfilling, I would suggest, the requirements legally.
Okay, I'm just looking, I don't know, would we need to double check that through the regulations prior to us making that amendment? Would that be?
So there's probably a good practice guide for LPBs. I wouldn't expect it to be in the regs, but we can check that point. But subject to that being checked, we'll say we could go with the suggestion that Stuart's made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Gareth, I think we'll know what you said, Gareth. We'll do some background checks just to make sure. I think it's a board, but I think there's a consistency across between the members that we're happy.
I think what's probably useful once you've done those checks, probably useful to sort of identify a date and a time when your tenure begins and when it ends, so that you can then, in the lead up to, identify the chair that's going to come in to take over from you, so that they can begin their training and so on.
Yeah, we'll capture that as well, Steve. Okay. Next one down, Ian. This was for yourself. It's about self-service. It's around detail on self-service element.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think we discussed last time, it was highlighted that the numbers felt a little low on the 2015 scheme. I guess in terms of an update from our previous section, we've since issued the annual benefit statements as part of that statutory exercise, which is required I think by the end of August. Following that, we issued notification to all individuals who were not currently using the member self-serve functionality, with a code that they can they can set themselves up then on the self-serve exercise. The numbers still look, and you'll see as we move on to the latest update, that the numbers are still relatively small in the 2015. So whether there's need for, I suppose, alternate communication as well, other than, I guess, ourselves as a pension administration writing out. I know, obviously, I sit on the LGPS board as well as and a part of other things, and I know some of the trade unions sort of help us with including things in their communications as well. So if there is anything going out to members, just a broad statement really of encouragement to encourage members to join the self-service system, I think would help. So if it can come from a number of directions, I suppose some of that communication is certainly could help. But the fact that the 2015 ones would perhaps indicate they're more younger members potentially that haven't signed up for the member self-serve, rather than quite high statistics we have on the other schemes where members have joined it. So that's probably an indication there that there's perhaps younger members not signing up, which obviously we would want to encourage them. But we've done that exercise, that wider exercise. But any help out there in terms of wider communications?
So we're happy to support in any way that we can from an internal pensions perspective by putting some messaging out to members, if that would help. And I suspect Gareth would probably offer the same. So yeah, if we can work together, I guess some facts around how do you access.
Yes.
If you can help us with some of that, we'd be happy to support that.
Yeah. Gareth, is there anything for you? Because I know we were having a conversation about this last time at the meeting.
Yeah, just briefly, we're looking to establish, we haven't had it in place for a while, all members for Wales kind of newsletter, for example. So when we get that in place, it's going to take a little bit of work. If I can come back to you for some details that you think would be helpful in there, then we can certainly support that.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful.
I guess it's not a surprise that younger people who probably are looking to the future and thinking it's years away before I need to worry about my pension aren't logging in. I suppose that it's about sort of educating us to the benefits of why it would be useful to log in right now, and in any narrative that we put out, explaining how that can be a benefit. It's to do it now rather than waiting until you're 25 years of service or longer.
And I think it's capturing people as new starters as well. That's the important thing there. So when they are joining and you've got their attention, that's the point really, to try and get them to sign up. But I agree with you. The sentiments there, Stuart, that's reflective in the LGPS scheme as well. The younger people obviously less interested at that point in time of the pension detail. Yes, they want to be in the pension fund, but the detail is further down the line.
I guess that just thinking practically of the ways in which that could be overcome. Clearly, pension will attend initial training courses where people will be encouraged to sign up and paperwork will be completed. At that point, there won't be an ability to log on, but maybe at the end of the course, if people were to come back 12 weeks later when there was the ability to log on, then they could potentially do it practically and get them at the very start of their career and signed up and so on. Maybe, I don't know, just an idea.
LCT have pushed for us to get them to do the new starter forms. So this means that individuals are going to log on to do their own transfers. So that's going to encourage people to join as well.
It's something what we've done in LGPS, recognising there's a gap here. But a number of employers within LGPS, and they might all have different ways of starting. So what we suggested, well, let us do it, and let us make sure we're focusing the pension aspect. I know the employment aspect, will be dealt with by the employer, but the pension aspect, if we can focus on that, we can catch them early doors then, as I said, whilst we have people's attention, because they've just started, they'll more likely to sign up to everything that's available.
I think the modeler on the R&T page is really helpful. So my son's 27 and we're saying, why am I paying all this money into LGPS?
Yeah.
I said, let me show you, look at the modeler.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it now. So, yeah.
I think just to capture this action, I guess, Kelly, for yourself, we're happy, Ian, that you've provided the detail on the self-survey, so I think we can close that action off. Is there any merit in keeping something similar on it, just to collect some of the actions that we're going to partake in going forward?
Well, I think we monitor obviously the
Yeah.
statistics coming through as well every
Yes.
period, so we will note, I suppose, whether there is an increase in some of that area.
Should we just pick that up as a normal agenda?
We
Key performance indicators.
we could do.
Yeah.
couldn't we?
Yeah. Is everyone happy with that? And if we can complete that action, we move on for this. Okay, so that's the actions completed for us. Just go back to the agenda. There's a few reports here for decision. The first one now, page 11 of the item 6, which is review of key performance indicators and Mrs. Spears. So
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide the board with an update around the key service standards recorded on behalf of the service we provide to South Wales Fire and Rescue, plus some of the key activities that are currently underway between ourselves and your internal team. So moving on to the appendix on page 15, are the tables that you'll be familiar with in relation to the performance indicators and the number of cases completed during the periods and our compliance in relation to the service standards that we try and aim for to ensure that we meet the expectations of our members and yourselves in terms of that provision. So on table 1 there, not a huge number of cases in terms of some of the latest delivery there. And we're looking at August there in terms of periods. So we're looking sort of 1 case completed there on divorce estimates, then 3 cases down on retirements for active membership processed within 5 days. So again, 3 cases completed on time, and so on and so on. And I guess that's how those tables set themselves out in terms of key performance. There weren't any cases there within those tables, I believe, that warrant, I guess, further discussion. We completed on time. Not a significant amount of cases during the period, but we completed the ones there on time. I think probably more interestingly is the wider work that obviously we're doing with fire, and we'll come on to that in terms of some of the key activities. So on page 21 there, Chair, we have member self-service statistics, which we just discussed as at the 11th of September. And as we discussed, 2015 scheme does feel a little bit light in terms of the percentage of take up from the membership within that cohort. So I would suggest, as we discussed, that they're the ones we probably need to target is newer people joining the scheme, and joint communications out in terms of encouraging that narrative. In terms of the scheme member complaints, as we've agreed with partner board previously, we will record and discuss any formal complaints brought within the period within board and the background, so there's nothing to report on that front. Moving on to the key administration activities, there are a number of points noted here because basically we wanted to reflect the extensive amount of work we do as a pension service with Alison, Julian, and the team. Really, there's a lot going on at the moment within the pension world, and I'm sure you're all aware. So whilst I guess activity on an individual level in terms of retirements and things like that is manageable numbers, it's this retrospection and some of the work we're doing around this that is taking the volume of time to put things right for the scheme members and provide them with the information that they need to make those to inform their decisions, I guess. So I guess starting at the top, I referenced that earlier, really, the annual benefit statement is a statutory deadline that we have every year by the 31st of August. If we don't meet that deadline, we would be obliged to report that as a breach to the pensions regulator. So it's an important one as a board, really, that you're aware that we did meet that deadline. Activation keys for My Pension Online. So the My Pension Online is the self-service that we've referenced earlier. And again, all that communication went out to those individuals that haven't logged in to say, this is how you can log in, this is how you can see your information as well. So all part of that encouragement, really, to get people onto the membership, members online. We also have to undertake an exercise, a further exercise now on the annual benefit statements, and that's required by the 31st of March 25. And this is because of the rollback of the remedy and how comparisons need to be provided to members between that legacy and the reform scheme. So that's something that we have to do again because of some of the timelines that have been enforced on us, and that information is required. So that's, again, significant exercise again. Pension savings deadline. I think when I was writing the report or whatever, it referenced that the deadline was the 6th of October. So again, that's been concluded now. So those statements have gone out. So those pension savings statements obviously are the ones where members need to consider doing their self-assessments as part of the annual allowance exercise. So there's a deadline of October within there for the issue of them, and then self-assessments need to be done by the end of January. Again, there's reference there to remedial pension savings statements, again linking into similar to the 6th of October, and again it's been concluded. Probably worth referencing then the immediate choice remedial service statements that RCT have started working on. So we've categorised them as part of the guidance that we've received in terms of those into the green, amber and red. We are able to proceed with the green cases as they are. We've identified 180 cases, again, working with the service to work our way through some of those cases. Referencing amber there, so again, to give you a flavour of some of the numbers involved, 135 cases, and red that cannot be processed until clarity on legislation position is obtained for the 28 cases. So it's really complex, a lot of calculations, recalculations, as a result of some of this, but clearly something we have to do, but a significant exercise nevertheless, with other things going on as well within this sector. Pensioners with backdated pay increase has been reworked. So again, current retirement, so that's again reassurance that the currents are being paid on time. Member tax amendments been updated. And again, referencing really the regular meetings we have with South Wales Fire Pension Team. I mean, it's needed. It is clearly we need to work together on these exercises, significant exercises. So it's good we have this relationship with the team, that we're able to move on some of these items. Again, technical briefings, both from software provider and LGA. RCT is in attendance and on some of these meetings, obviously with South Wales Fire. And another item there, a newer item, I suppose, the RCT teams continuously liaise on the Matthews second options exercise. So again, that's something else in the mix there. I think that's probably again another one to note. I suppose bullet at the bottom then I suppose is the valuation exercise. So GAD valuation, and they do valuations of local public sector schemes. So the fire valuation, they require the data for that exercise in December. So again, that's one that we need to prioritise between ourselves and the team, to ensure that that information is provided but by the deadline. Obviously, there are consequences of picking up that work as well as obviously moving on some of these historic things that we have to deal with. And then finally, I guess nationally, the Pensions Dashboard Programme. So that's an ongoing programme with a deadline for public sector schemes to connect and onboard by October 2025. This will provide a portal really for anyone. The idea is a public portal. You go in and link up all your different pension pots from the different pension providers, so that you've got that holistic view of your pension arrangements. That's the intention. Is quite a significant piece of work. Again, we're already working with our software provider to be able to provide that information through on your behalf to the national scheme. So that is underway, and again, there's quite a bit of work our side to ensure that that is set up correctly for you. So I'm conscious I've said quite a bit there, Chair, so happy to pause now and take any questions from members.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you, Ian, for a comprehensive update from yourself. I'll open it up before I say anything else.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So two things from us. Firstly, a thank you for getting the ABSs out. I know you worked right up to the wire on that, because I was checking with colleagues that they had their ABSs. So a massive thank you, Ian, to you and the team. And then secondly, the Pensions Dashboard onboarding. At a recent LGA pensions conference, I was told that the scheme manager is the single ringable neck on this. So as the scheme manager delegated, I probably need to make sure that we discuss this at LPB formally going forward, so that we've got assurance, or I've got assurance, that we are in the right place. And I'll probably reach out to you separately just to have some additional conversations around what we need to be doing, what you need to be doing to achieve that October 25 deadline.
I I agree with that, Alison. I think on our other pension board, we've included it now as a standing item, so that's probably one you.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you, Alison. Any queries from anyone else? Gareth?
Thanks, Dean, and thank you for the report. Very much in line with Alison's statement. I just wanted to commend you for the work you've done to get the ABSs out, the rolled back ABSs out in time. I know that wasn't necessarily the same across all of the country, and I know that some authorities did need to report to the regulator on it. So well done. There was just one question on the bullet point, pensioners with backdated pay increases being reworked. Just so I understand, I think that is in reference to the pay increases that were retrospectively put in place for the years 22, 23 and 23, 24. And if that is right, do we have a rough outline of a timescale when that work might be completed? Thank you.
Question, Gareth. I think I have to defer on that one and come back to you in terms of that, of the actual detail of timeline. So if that's something I can just take away as a question. I just checked notes now, and I don't think I've noted the anticipated timeline. As I said, there's so much in the work at the moment. It's hard to identify what's the priority and which one goes to the top.
I totally agree. I think the workload is a real risk at the moment. But yeah, that's great. If we could just get an answer on that at some point. I think that I've raised it a couple of times because I'm minded that it was quite unique the way in which those two pay awards were applied. They were applied quite retrospectively, but quite far after the fact as such. We just wanted to make sure that any members that had retired prior to the retrospective application of the pay award had the relevant uplift in what would have been their final salary. Thank you.
Thanks, Gareth.
I'm going to do a very similar thing to what Alison and Gareth have done in relation to commending, because when you look at each of these bullet points, you know, every one of them is highly complex and an incredible workload. Certainly not spent much time for doing the crossword in your team.
Yes.
And so, you know, and as Gareth has already said, that hasn't been uniform across Wales. I'm still waiting for my annual benefit statement, for example. So you've clearly achieved a really good service to the organisation. So thank you, and please pass on those thanks to the rest of your team.
Thank you. Thanks, Stuart. Anyone else? No, I think for me, and it's probably just echoing the rest of the board's comments really in terms of thank you to yourself, but also to Julian and the colleagues there, because I think there's a bit of crossover in the dependency between yourself and the service, and that crossover of information of what is an extremely complex situation, because there's so many different things going on at the moment. We just got one other query from myself, which was around the annual benefit statements, which was around the GAD contribution calculator information to be supplied or provided to RCT team by ourselves October, November. So what would that mean, Julie? Are you working out those contributions through the GAD and then providing that information to?
Yeah.
I see that's it, what it is.
Yeah, so we're currently working through it. We've got somebody working with us as well, teams bit in on the ground at the moment. So we've got somebody in doing just GAD calculating on a daily basis. So we've got 172 left to do out of the whole of all the cohorts that we've done. So we're hoping together by mid-November.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, if there's no other queries, thank you very much, Ian. And thank you, Julia, to the contribution team are making as well. Sure. There were two recommendations as part of that. I'll just want to make sure that we cover those off. For the board, the first recommendation is that the board note the performance data included in Appendix 1 attached to the report. I think we were consistent there. And then second one was members note the relevant pension administrative overview and updated it, including appendix to attached reports. So I think we're all happy with those. Yeah, okay, thank you. So next report for decision then is page 25, this is agenda item 7, local pension board. Yeah, pension 25, yeah, page 25. And Alison, this one is for yourself.
Chair. So this item is on the agenda as a result of the discussion we had last meeting around what the SLA looks like. And it does link back to the conversation we just had about service standards that RCT provided to us. You will see from the document that it was signed in 2019. We did undertake a review at Ford in 2021. So we have had one review since the document was signed. We also hold regular meetings and conversations with RCT, as Ian outlined in the course of our work, and in terms of sort of general catch-ups around the relationship between us and RCT. I think the focus of this conversation, I think, for the board today is around particularly the service standards. So they're on page 43 of the document, starting at the bottom. And I think William and Gareth raised previously, are we comfortable that the service standards are still relevant? We should, as a board, be looking at them every year and reviewing them and making sure that they are still current and relevant for us as a service working with our provider. So without wanting to go to the whole document, I suppose that's the area of focus that I'd suggest we start at, but happy to take any other comments on the document as a whole. The other thing I would say is probably we'd want to bring this back to board at least annually for us just to kind of check in, are we still happy with the SLA? Does it need updating, and formally review the service standards? And I think that's all I want to say by way of an introduction, really. I'm happy to take any comments or observations from the board.
I'll have the numbers.
My question, I suppose, is when these were created, it may or may not have been prior to an awful lot of the complexities that we now find ourselves in, complex environment, and are the timelines in the service standards realistic based on now? And if they are, then fine, but if they're not, then say it, because we may well be setting ourselves up to fail if they are too tight.
Any other queries from anyone?
Just the one for me. Note that within there, there's no actual period. It's more like an open-ended SLA.
Yes.
Is that intentional, or is that something that we've just missed off?
Good question. I don't know is the answer, but I would suggest we probably want to
Yeah.
tweak slightly to review formally if we can.
Okay.
I know there's an annual review
Yeah.
written in there,
Yeah.
but it doesn't, you're right, it doesn't go as far as to say we formally review the whole SLA. There's a review built in with RCT and us,
Yeah.
but not necessarily about the SLA.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed, the fees that were payable by us, should that be included in SLA?
So
Obviously, we pay fee to Rotherham and staff. Obviously, I would imagine that's going to change year on year.
yes, I would say that the fees are fluid because of the additional aspects that we've just heard about in Ian's update. So I guess the question for you around good practice on
That's
stuff.
what I'm trying to do is relate it back to a formal contract.
Yes.
So you normally got a period, normally got a cost, aren't sometimes included in SLAs as best practice. I think a lot of SLAs that are being written include those two things. So I just wondering what your view on what about including those two.
So I guess from a transparency perspective, it's useful to have the information in there. It would need to tie in with the annual budget conversation that we have, and in terms of what the levels and costs are and what we're getting for that money. So, yeah, I would say good practice, I think, from a transparency perspective to include, and then if we did a formal review annually and built that into the SLA going forward, that would be helpful.
I just comment whether that should be there within board then, or whether I should be party to your conversations. I'm not sure whether that sits with board in terms of the contractual side of the things rather than that's for you to consider, I suppose, as player in terms of costs. If we're really tying this down in terms of contractual relationships, bear in mind that this has gone on for years, years and years, but that's on, I guess, the procurement side of things, you know, if we really wanted to tie it down, you know, I'd be looking for a longer commitment from yourself, so you can't tell me tomorrow you're going after you're investing in people within the service to undertake this work. So that would be a bigger conversation, perhaps, you know, perhaps as a separate conversation to board.
Yeah, I agree there because we haven't got a formal contract in place. We use this SLA as our document. So that might be something we need to look at in future.
So, I mean, from what's being discussed, it suggests to me that potentially an SLA isn't the right thing to capture in this forum, but ultimately there is a contract that sits separate to what this would become in some kind of guidance or terms of engagement or another name for what this actually is.
It still defines the service, I suppose, and I think it's boards from this perspective. Yes, it does set out the service and some of the things we discussed. So
Well, there probably needs to be a contract as well as that, then, with financial element.
Yeah, and the SLA would then form part of that contract, I think.
And that would be not something that you could probably introduce retrospectively. There'd have to be a procurement process. Or no?
Because we're using our local authority, I think we'd probably get an exemption around that.
It's highly specialist piece area of work. Is extremely restrictive in terms of the way you can go for the service. And you know, as I said, we've always worked extremely well as a local fire authority and local council together to ensure these things are delivered. So we rely heavily, I suppose, on the relationship.
Yeah, we've always used the SLA. Every time the auditor comes knocking, we always point them towards the SLA, but they are getting more keen towards contracts for all our working relationships with suppliers, local authorities, partners.
So we can pick that up.
Yeah, I can have that.
Thank you.
So there's a potential proposal there, isn't there, for an action around development of a contract with signposting reciprocally in both directions to the SLA.
I guess because you provided the report. There's two recommendations that members are to take a review of the SLA agreement attached to the report in Appendix 1. So I guess that needs to be independently reviewed by the board. How would you see the practicalities of that working? Because it's probably not a conversation on this table for all of us to delve into just that one report. Is that something that we could sit down and do outside of this board meeting and then bring back as part of that review?
We could do that. I guess in terms of the service standards particularly, input from Ian and probably Julia would be really helpful in terms of the timeframes, because I think Stuart said that they're quite tight. And is that, you know, causing us a challenge? Although looking at the indicators that Ian presented earlier, we're at 100% on pretty much everything. So that sort of suggests that we're in the right place. But I suppose a check in on the service standards particularly, but then an in-depth review of the SLA, we could do that separately if you wish, Chair. So yeah, we can do those two things.
Okay, because I think once we've done our review, it'll box off recommendation 2 then,
Yeah.
the annual review. So once we've done the review of the SLA, if that's what it's going to be, once we've got a date, we can then set a 12-month review.
Okay.
Is that okay with the board? Thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, which is page 49 of the report of decision, Alison, and this is about the local pension board risk register.
Yeah, thank you, Jill. So this presents a new revised risk register to board based on the pension regulator good practice guide on risk registers for pension boards. It has 4 main areas under which risks are assessed, and those are operational, financial, funding and regulatory. What I've done is I've had a stab at inserting under each of those headings at what I think are probably our risks. I wouldn't propose to go through the detail. I'm working on the basis that you've all read the risk register. So I guess the conversation around, does it look right? Is the content right? Is the scoring looking broadly right? And then I probably propose that we bring this to board at each meeting so that we have the risks there front and centre, and we can review them prior to board, bring any comments or concerns to board at each meeting.
Thanks, Alison. Is there any queries for anyone?
Can I just say thank you for undertaking the piece of work? I think it's really important that we regularly assess these risks and keep an eye on these things. It is a very difficult time for pensions, isn't it? And we need to do the best we can to make sure we don't make any mistakes. But so thank you again.
Just one thing for me, and it's again, great piece of work that's been completed here. I guess it's just a question about how this talks to or feeds up in the hierarchy of corporate risk. So ultimately, I'm seeing it almost like a departmental risk register that sits beneath the overall corporate risk. And is there something on the corporate risk register that references this, and then you can dig down into this to find out more information? Does that make sense?
Yeah. We have got some corporate risks on pensions, but I'll make sure that we've got that tie-in just to close that loop.
Okay, so I think as a board, then just for consistency from us all, I think we'll capture as an action then, Alison, for going forward. We'll agenda at the next meeting as well, because I think in between now and then, we could probably delve into detail as members in terms of the risks, just to ensure that we're happy with the content, score ratings, etc., that you can apply to it. Alison, if there's any queries, we can bring it back to the next one and then sign it off as an action. So, okay with everyone? Thank you, Alison. Okay, so that's all the reports for decision. We've got a couple more reports just for information. And the first one now, which is item agenda number 9, and that's page 65 of the bundle. And Alison, this one's back to yourself in the room, Cloud and O'Brien Remedy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this report headlines 3 national projects. First is the second is O'Brien, the third is the pension dashboard project. We've talked already about deadlines and meeting those. I think what I wanted to just highlight with you are some specific paragraphs in the report. You will see that the reports capture a journey. So what we've tried to do is just set out why we've got to where we've got to. So back to 2011, when there was a review of public sector pensions, and then bringing us up to current times. In terms of the report itself and highlighting some of the areas, so 1.9 on page 67 references some of the detail around the individuals that fall into the first cohort category, and we've highlighted then probably a question for Julia and Ian around confirmation when the administrators are being able to process the RSSs. So I don't know if there's a kind of update for board on that, because probably at the time of writing we were still kind of working through that. So just that's I'll do my kind of quick updates, and then so you can give us an update on where we are currently. And 1.10, there was an issue around HMRC and tax. I think that we've now had the green light on the tax issues. So there has been a letter received into LGA around resolving some of the tax issues that we faced. I know that's been received hot off the press, so we haven't probably computed what that means and looks like yet. But just to highlight that we have had communication directly from HMRC on some of the tax issues around offsetting pension element when undertaking calculations under McLeod. And then 1.13, just to reconfirm and thank RCT and the pensions team here around completion of and issuing of the EBSs for this year. So is there any other kind of update on the plans with Julia and Ian in terms of any outstanding actions that we haven't discussed?
1.9 will be referring to the green cases. So I know last going off that RCT had started work on those, but I believe this might have been superseded now by the valuation that's due on the 1st of December.
So I checked this morning in terms of an update, and not huge numbers at the moment. So it was 14 they'd actually worked on, and I think within the green cases, I think we'd identified 180 of them, which included sort of 33 death and ill health cases being prioritised. So low in number at the moment. Clearly, we would, I think the feedback was we're going to try and juggle the valuation requirement, that obviously we have to meet that valuation requirement, but also still work through these green cases that we are committed to prioritising. But the recap, does take time to undertake the recalculations of them, and a specialist, we can't just give this, but both exercises really, the valuation data and the other thing, we just can't give it to wider team members because they wouldn't understand the nuances, I suppose, between what we're dealing with here compared to the wider pension benefits that they do. So one to keep an eye on, I would say, in terms of feedback and process, and one which I will include anyway as part of my update in the next one. Clearly, we got the number of cases here, so something that we need to track.
In terms of O'Brien, just to highlight para 2.9. So I know, Julia, you will have an update on the numbers, but we've got out 473 on-call or previous on-call staff. And we had, at the time of writing this report, 184 responses. We have been discussing and I think we've agreed that we would use a tracing company, because I think this was a question that Gans raised at the last meeting, which is around, are we confident that we've reached out or actually made contact with those people that have retired? And I know there's a national exercise through a company called ITM, who are a tracing service and are doing some work across the fire sector in support of O'Brien. So, Julia, have you got an update on the numbers?
Yeah, so we received 218 completed expression of interest forms. So at the beginning of September, we wrote out to the 284 people that were missing off our list, but that's only generated another 23 forms. So there's still 261 missing. So I've liaised with ITM and the other tracing service. So we're going to give the reminder letters to the end of this month, and that is actually the deadline for the expressions of interest forms to be in by. But it is in our gift to allow extensions for that because the completion date's not till July. So we've liaised with ITM. They've given us a cost of what it would be and explained the tracing process is a 3-part tracing check. So we're working with them, and a number of fire and rescue services have been working them, and the LGA are saying that if we are doing that, they're going to be satisfied that we've made all reasonable endeavours to reach out to try and locate all the people that we can. So hopefully we'll get more back from that.
And the cost of using, so there's a 3-stage process and it's.
Yeah, so it's £1 per member for the first part, which is a mortality trace. Then it's £1 per member for the second part, which is a financial data trace. So like credit cards, anything like that, they'll search on. And then the third is a full history check, which is £15 per member. And then it just sort of like, you get 50 in the first section, you only pay for the next section for whatever's remaining. Like a rolling total. So the maximum we were thinking that it could be, if they didn't find anybody in 1 and 2, would be about 5,000. So we put that to the procurement team to see if we would be able to use our service.
Thank you.
Carry on, listen, we'll just open up if there's any
I'm
queries.
not sure I'd like to make tracing money, to be honest, because that's a really efficient, service, isn't it? That's a really good price. So yeah, I think it's the way forward.
Any other queries from anyone? No, well, thank you, Alison, and thank you, Julie, for that good work as well. I know like what Stuart's also said as well, so I think it's that's good value for money, really. It gives that assurance whether that we've meeting all reasonable endeavours as you've mentioned. So thank you.
Other services we've been having a lot of return to senders, but we've had 2, maybe 3. So there is a reason why these people aren't applying. So at least we'll know that if it even says they live there, then we know they're just not responding.
Yeah.
So we can tick that box then.
Thank you. I think the other benefit is where there is a deceased reason, a reason for the people are dead. It takes that pressure away from family members receiving constant barrage. It's a search that's done, which doesn't involve upsetting family by constantly getting letters for people who are no longer with us. Yeah.
Okay, so next one down, item 10, which is page 79. This is internal dispute resolution procedures, and again, I'll please leave this out.
So this report is for board's awareness to give sight of the types of internal disputes we receive with regards to fire pensions. Welsh Government issued a circular dated 10th June 2021, which sets out the approach to internal dispute resolution. So that's the policy approach that we apply. And what I wanted to do here was just to give the board a flavour of the types of disputes we've received. So Appendix B on page 99, in the last financial year, so that's April 23 to March 24, shows that we've had 3 internal disputes. The first linked to O'Brien, and the response to the member was that their query would be picked up as part of the ongoing litigation, and the response to O'Brien the service is following. The second was a deferred member querying their pension level. This one was in relation to an ill health retirement. So the response set out the components of their pension, clarified that the award made was accurate and in line with the regs. And then the third one was an interesting one. This was an ill health retirement, where an individual was in receipt of a PIP, personal independence payment, and had their pension reduced because of that PIP payment. On reviewing the information and the practice across the fire sector, the determination that I reached there was that we were an outlier in reducing the individual's pension by the PIP payment. So I upheld the complaint and we adjusted the pension. So those were the 3 that we received in the financial year. The plan would be to bring this back to board on an annual basis at the end of every financial year, so that we can review and start to put on plans. and you know, kind of make decisions moving forward. But I think that's as much as I wanted to say. And take any questions?
Any observation or queries of anyone? No?
I think from me, Chair, I just say it hopefully provides board with some reassurance really that there are not high volumes of appeals coming through to Alison for her consideration.
And you'll see that I should have mentioned actually, there is a stage 2. So there is an appeal mechanism which is to the next level. And we didn't receive any stage 2 appeals. However, we do need to make sure that we've got people that can hear the stage 2 and are fully trained to do that, which we do with support of a lawyer from Merthyr Council. But none received on this occasion.
Okay, thank you, Alison. Thanks for the report and the information. Thank you. Okay, so next report for information, which is page 1.
Yeah.
Page. So it's just a variable update from yourself, Alison.
Yeah, so what I'd like to do with board is just give a little flavour of the discussion at the scheme advisory board. So this is an all Wales style meeting. The last meeting that we had was held on the 8th of July. The main agenda item on this meeting was changes to the employee contribution rate structure, employee contribution rates. We know that the employer contribution rates changed in April 24. So this is a precursor and an initial discussion around what those changes might look like. It was an initial discussion. I'm looking around the room because there may have been colleagues in the meeting who may be able to add to. There are unfortunately no formal minutes of the meeting that have been issued as yet. All I would want to say at this point is there was a discussion around changes to be implemented on the 1st of April 2025. And that discussion looked at different models for banding of contribution rates. And there were several models shared. So looking at the gaps between the bands, salary boundaries within bands, the number of bands. So it was a really sort of early discussion of, you know, we know this needs to happen. What might that look like? So there's no decisions made as yet. So nothing I can share formally with board other than to say there is an ongoing discussion and I expect there'll be further discussions before April on the matter.
Okay.
It's been talked about for a little while, hasn't it?
Yes.
I wasn't at that meeting, but I have been at previous meetings when it's been about and that those banding things we banded around the idea of a 3-band process with a middle manager, sorry, a supervisory manager, a middle manager, and a strategic manager banding and different scales accordingly. But clearly, it's still work in progress. And watch this space, I suppose.
Yes.
Okay, are there any other queries for Alison from anyone?
I think these kind of exercises, they normally do follow on from valuations of the scheme, and they cost and affordability and you must be looking at the previous valuation cycle rather than this one if they're thinking
Yes.
1st of April 2020.
Okay, well, thanks, Alison. I guess we'll have some agenda for us if
Yes.
it becomes a reality. Thank you. Okay, we're going to wait down the list. So we're now on item 12, which is page 1 and 3 in the bundle. Again, Alison, this is yourself, publications, updates and information.
Yeah, so this one's going to be quite short, Chair. I'm going to say the links are in the document, the online document. So I encourage board members to, if you've got 5 minutes to have a look, it's not a mandatory element of the role, but it's a good, I would say it's good practice to keep ahead of what's going on through the LGA bulletins. The the other thing that I am going to share with you is we attended the LGA annual conference in September. There's a lot on there around the pension dashboard onboarding, which is when I discovered that I am the single bottleneck on it. But also there was some useful other information around the cloud, and there's a slide pack that I'm waiting, and I'll check after the meeting if it's in the LGA lockdown site, and I will share that with you for information and awareness, just really sort of general awareness around the cloud, O'Brien pensions dashboard, etc. So just for your information rather than action at this point. So I generally include the bulletins for you to look at in your own time, and if you've got 5 minutes, I'm not going to label the point of content, but there will be information there about dashboards, clouds and O'Brien. And of course, these are written by English, based on English regs rather than Welsh. So you need to keep that in mind as well. Generally, there's a lot of crossover and clarifications. So that's as much as I wanted to say.
That's awesome. And again, I'll just open up in case there are any queries or observations from anyone. No? Thank you, Malcolm. Okay, so I think that completes the reports going to the nation. And item 30, which is a little bit of a board work programme for the board. Look at, so I think starting page 107, we've obviously completed the first few items in our agenda. And looking forward to February, we've got review of performance indicators, update on national exercises, standalone then recent publications, newsletters and information. I'm not sure if we probably need to add now to the content from today's agenda items.
We'll amend that to include the actions and particularly an item on the pensions dashboard.
Yeah, so it was the SLA, wasn't it? It was the risk.
The risk register.
As well. Okay. And then obviously we've got June for the other items. So is there any additional observations from any of the board members? Intent.
June 24, it says.
Yeah.
We're in 25.
Yeah.
25 by that minute.
Yeah.
Okay. Recommended as well. Okay, so we're down to item 14, which is considering like business. There's nothing for me, but obviously, is there anything for anyone else that was going around the table? If there is, just please speak up. No. So is that great? So just a bit of a thank you really to everyone who's contributed to the board meeting today. Obviously a lot of work going on, very complex situation as well. So again, just a thank you for all the hard work that's going into what is understandably a very complex time for lots of individuals around the organisation. So I look forward to seeing you in February at the next meeting. For those that we're not going to see, wish you a happy new year and a Merry Christmas, and always nice and early. So see you till
That's gotta be it. It's gotta be it.
So please enjoy the rest of your time and thank you for today's attendance. Thank you.